Welcome to Knife 02! We're going to talk about some knives today, and then I'm going to show you how to use them safely so that you don't cut yourself in my class. When you're setting up your cutting board, we want to make sure our surface is as stable as possible. So we will use a non-slip mat. If we don't have any of those, a damp cloth will do. Set that down, set your cutting board on top, and it's not going anywhere. And now you're ready to cut. When you're walking with a knife, make sure you're walking with it tipped down by your side, blade facing backwards. When you get to your counter, bring it right up and set it on your cutting board. So, when we're using our knife, we want to make sure that we are using it safely. So we are going to use the pinch grip and the claw. I'm right-handed, which means the knife is going to go in my right hand. If you're left-handed, flip it around. For the knife, we're going to do what's called the pinch grip. So that's my pointer and my thumb are going to be right in front of the handle, and my other three fingers wrap around, just like so. The reason we do that is it is the most comfortable for us. It keeps our wrist in a nice straight line. If you do what's called the hammer grip like that, your wrist is at a really awkward angle when you're cutting. With the pinch grip, not so much. And the other one that I see people do a lot is their pointer finger out. I find your knuckle gets really tired really fast, so we try and tuck that in just like so. So with the knife, we're doing the pinch grip, and our other hand is doing what's called the claw. The claw is all of our fingertips on the board, or on the product. Let's say we're cutting carrots, our fingertip is on the carrots at all times. What we're really trying to focus on is that our thumb stays behind our fingers. What I see a lot with students starting out is this is pretty awkward. They relax their hand like this, and then their thumb starts to creep forward. Boom. Thumb tip on the board. And if you've ever cut your hands, they bleed a lot, and it's pretty gross. So we don't want to do that. The knives that I have on the cutting board are the four most common that we use in the cafeteria here. This one is our boning knife. It's used only for meat cutting. The blade's got a little bit of flex to it, and it's nice and narrow, so we can go through the bones around joints and lose as little meat as possible. So boning knife, only for meat cutting. This next one here that looks a little bit like a saw is our bread knife or our pastry knife. The little teeth along the edge there, that grips into crusty loaves of bread or really soft cakes, so you don't have to push down hard. You use it like a saw and just really gently back and forth through the cake or bread, anything like that. This little guy here is our paring knife. It's used only for small, detailed tasks, and it's the only knife that you can use to cut towards yourself. So there are some things where you're gonna grip it with the blade facing towards your thumb, and you would use it like this, really gently cutting towards yourself. So those three knives we use for smaller tasks, more specific things, and then we come to this last guy right here. This is our chef's knife. This is the knife you're going to use on every single station, and you are going to be cutting 90% of the things with it. So this is the one that I'm going to show you how to use. Now that we know how to handle our knife safely and how to keep our fingers out of the way, we're going to start cutting some onions. We do onions because they're a little bit different, but we use them all the time. So with an onion, there is a top and a bottom, the root end and the green end. We're going to start by trimming those off as little as possible because we don't want to make a lot of waste. So top off, bottom off. The reason we do that is we need to get rid of them, but it also now gives us a flat surface for our onion to sit. Instead of it rolling around all crazy, it's now sitting nice and level. All of the cuts I'm gonna show you today start by cutting the top off and bottom off and then going in half through the root. So that's that guy, and we're gonna go right down in half. Anytime you're working with knives or cutting, you want to assembly line it. So if I have to cut a whole bunch of onions, I'm gonna cut them all, or I'm gonna do top and bottom and peel all of them, and then I'll get reset and I will start cutting all of them. I'm not gonna dice one and then clean up and then get another one and then dice that. So top off, bottom off, take the peel off. And we often want to get rid of that first layer of skin because it's a little bit tough. Doesn't really cook down well, but it has a lot of flavor, so we can save that for things like stock. So set that aside. Get the next piece peeled. Same thing, we'll get rid of that little woodier top portion. Save that for stock. And then before I start cutting, I'm gonna make sure that I clean up my cutting board. All of these little flecks of paper can get stuck to your onion really easily. If you don't get rid of them now, they're gonna end up in your final dish, and nobody wants that. So cloth and a bowl, and I can just wipe my cutting board off, make sure everything's nice and clean, get my knife all cleaned off, and then we're reset to start cutting. Now that our onion's nice and peeled, we are going to dice it. I am going to show you two of the most common dices that we do. So the first one will be a small dice. We put a lot of effort into remembering where the root was. So we have our root end and our top. We want our root end because it's gonna hold our onion together when we do the small dice. So anytime we're cutting, we want a nice stable surface. So our cut side down, our onion's not gonna move anywhere. Using our pinch grip and our claw, we're gonna start by going around the onion, starting at an angle and working our way up, going about 90% of the way through the onion. And over and down. So if you look, even with all those cuts, our onion's totally staying together except for that little piece. So get our cuts like that. We're gonna turn it 90 degrees, and now we're gonna cut the other way. Again, pinch grip claw, cutting down, and the action we're doing is what I call the reverse choo-choo train. So with the choo-choo train, it's gonna go this way. A reverse choo-choo train, we wanna go back and up and forward and down as we're cutting. We're gonna get to a point where our onion just kind of falls over. That's fine, we'll let it fall. And now we have a bunch here that we don't want to waste. So same thing we did at the start. We'll make little cuts into it and we'll finish up cutting like that. This root end still has lots of flavor. It can go into our stock. And if we spread them out, you can see we've got a nice even cut, which is really important for us because that means it's gonna cook evenly. If we have big pieces and small pieces, the big pieces will be done and the small pieces will be mush. If the small pieces are done, the big pieces will still be raw. Same thing we did before. We wanna make sure we're working clean. So I'm going to get a bowl and put it into a bowl. So that was a small dice. With a large or medium dice, we're gonna take the root off this time. So we start with our onion, we find our root end, we're gonna put our knife just above it, and we're gonna cut down at about a 45-degree angle. Again, saving that for stock. This time we're gonna go against the lines, and we're gonna cut down all the way through, keeping it together. Now we'll turn it, and again, starting at an angle, cut in and around, working our way up until we have our onion totally cut. Again, you can see nice even cuts, so it's all gonna cook uniformly. cleaning off our cutting board, we'll get set up to cut carrots. Next vegetable I'm going to show you is carrots. I'm going to show you carrots because that will double for any other solid vegetable. Beets, rutabagas, turnips, potatoes, carrots, other solid parsnips, all of those are going to be the same techniques as what I'm showing you now. The first cut I'm going to show you is a julienne. It looks like a matchstick because if you can do a julienne, it's just one more cut to get to a dice. So julienne starts off with a piece about 2 inches long, like so, and we're going to cut it into planks and then strips, and if we want to go further, into our dice. So we'll let it roll around till it finds a flat spot, and now we're going to cut our plank. Once we cut our first plank, we can rest our carrot on that, so now it's not rolling around, and we're going to continue to cut our planks. Again, we're focusing on the pinch grip and the claw. So you can see when I'm doing it properly, the knife is running right up against the knuckle of my finger, so I know exactly where it is. When I get to the very end, I'll do what's called the pinch grip. So that is finger on either side of the product and the knife goes through the middle. Once we've got them cut into our planks, we're going to take these planks and we're going to cut them into strips. You can do one at a time if you want. If you feel more comfortable, you can stack them up. Again, pinch grip claw, knife running right up against my knuckle. Using the reverse choo-choo train, we go back and up, forward and down. Slide my fingers back each time. And away we go. And you end up with your julienne carrots. To turn that into a dice, all we need to do is cut it one more time. So take our strips, go 90 degrees, and cut it one more time. And we end up with our diced carrot. This is called a brunoise. We don't do it very much. It's very, very fine, but the technique's the same. So if I wanted to do a small diced carrot, I'm going to do the same thing, but each cut is going to be spaced a little bit farther apart. So I'm going to start with my plank, go all the way along in my planks. I'm going to take my plank, I'm going to turn it into my sticks or my strips, and then I'm going to take my strips and I'm going to turn them into the dice. Again, the technique's all the same, it's just each cut is a little bit farther apart. And now you have a small diced carrot versus a brunoise carrot. You're gonna have to cut all this together. Am I just like looking down here now? Is she gonna pan down?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't need to cut. Okay, cut. Everyone cut.
I don't know. You guys are the in charge people. I'm just the talent that's making it harder on your life.